Welcome back to Reddit Echoes, the channel where heartfelt, genuine, real-life stories invite us to deeply reflect on life and the relationships around us. Today I'm going to share the story of a young woman who once dreamed of a happy home, but ended up enduring dark days trapped under control and pressure in a house she called hell. This isn't just a story about the hardships of married life with in-laws. It's also a powerful lesson about inner strength and resilience to break free from toxic relationships. Let's listen and feel this painful yet hopeful journey together. Story 1. When I discovered my husband's affair through the lunch I prepared for him. Hello everyone. I'm a 26-year-old mother newly married for nearly 2 years and currently raising a 6-month-old baby. I work part-time to support the family financially and pay for my husband's immigration procedures. He is an immigrant currently applying for permanent residency in the U.S. Everything seemed quite normal at first, and I even thought I was living in a peaceful marriage. Every morning, I usually wake up about an hour and a half before him to prepare breakfast, pick out clothes, and pack his lunch to take to work. I always choose healthy meals like grilled chicken with salad or chicken wraps with honey mustard or lemon pepper sauce so he can stay healthy and productive. I do all this, not because I have to, but because I want to show my love and care for him. However, recently he started asking for more food, saying that the lunch wasn't filling enough. I had to add leftover dinner portions into his lunchbox. This made me wonder because whether I'm working or not, he always has dinner prepared by me. I assumed maybe he was trying to gain weight or build muscle. One day, while preparing his lunch, I was surprised to find a second fork in his lunchbox, one that I didn't recognize. When I asked him about it, he said it belonged to a co-worker at his workplace who brought it home. But I found it very suspicious. I started paying more attention and sensed that something was wrong. A few days later, I decided to visit his workplace during lunch to surprise him and show him the dessert I had prepared. At that moment, I saw him eating the leftovers I packed while the main dish I prepared was being eaten by a female co-worker whom he had told me no longer worked there. I didn't cause a scene, but took a few pictures as evidence. Since then, I uncovered a series of heartbreaking things he had lied to me, saying he wasn't involved with other women, but in fact he had been in contact with a former co-worker who was fired because of her. Quietly gathering evidence, I decided to move out, taking my baby and essential belongings with me. I informed my family and lawyer about everything and even canceled the immigration lawyer handling my husband's case, switching to a divorce and custody lawyer. I gave him 7 days to move out of the house, and all contact regarding visitation with the baby had to go through my mother. My life became very chaotic and stressful as he refused to let go, trying all means to contact me, even causing disturbances at my siblings' houses and returning home drunk with friends. I had to hire security to ensure safety at my workplace and worry about the safety of myself and my daughter. What was worse was that after some time I found out I was infected with a sexually transmitted disease, which doctors suspected he had contracted during the time he cheated while I was pregnant and after childbirth. This left me in despair and full of rage, not only because of betrayal, but also because of the harm done to my daughter. I had painful conversations with him, and he admitted his mistakes, begged for forgiveness, and promised to change. But I knew I could no longer trust him. I didn't want my daughter to grow up in such an environment. That's my story. A journey from trust and sacrifice to betrayal and pain, but I am still trying to stand up and find a new path for myself and my daughter. Story 2. When my mother-in-law's obsession with sex turned love into a nightmare. My name is Kit. I'm 25 years old and I had a 3-year relationship with my boyfriend who is also 25. When we first started, everything was sweet. But gradually I began to feel something very strange about his mother. Maybe I should start by sharing a bit about his family background. His father died in a tragic accident when he was very young, so he grew up with just his mother and younger sister until his mother remarried. We started dating long distance, but every time I visited I could feel the strange looks, attitudes, and words from his mother. The first time I really felt uncomfortable was right after my first visit. His mother asked him to tell her about our love life, and even inquired in detail about my private parts in a very awkward way. I tried to think maybe they have a very close mother-son relationship, but what came next made me unable to tolerate it. For example, another time when he was lying face down on a leg exercise machine, his mother made a very awkward comment that he would look very attractive while doing that. I felt like I was being pulled into a never-ending horror story. The peak of my discomfort was during Thanksgiving. I invited a friend and her boyfriend to my boyfriend's mother's house for a meal since I couldn't go home to my own family. At the dinner table, meeting new friends for the first time, his mother shamelessly made crude remarks about her son's manhood right in front of me. I felt suffocated, shocked, and disgusted. But the worst was yet to come. After a period of sexual inactivity due to my health reasons, his mother pulled me aside and told me that her son complained that I no longer satisfy him, and that they agreed it was because of the side effects of the medication I was taking, and that I should stop using it. I was really shocked. His mother cared more about her son's bedroom life than my health. The fact that they discussed and planned his intimate life with another person made me lose all trust. I didn't think adults could share things so excessively, but maybe I was wrong. After that conversation, I decided to stop the medication on my own without consulting a doctor. The result was I got very sick, had to be hospitalized, and had to resume the medication. I went to therapy for a year trying to understand why I felt so disgusted with him to the point that I didn't want to kiss him anymore. We went through a year without any intimacy. A big part of why I was so shocked was because of his horrible bathroom habit. He always left feces in the toilet without cleaning. I had to remind him many times, but he only flushed occasionally. Many times the toilet was still dirty with feces, like a child playing in mud, causing a terrible smell. Anyone who came to our house had to face that disgusting scene because we only have one bathroom. He refused to clean it, saying cleaning every day wastes water and detergent. I didn't care. I found it filthy, unhygienic, and unbearable. That sight haunted me so much that I couldn't see him the same way anymore. Just thinking about feces made me feel disgusted. Combined with his mother's obsession about her son's sex life and a year without intimacy, I had no choice but to break up. I knew in advance that he was planning to propose, but I had no idea. I wonder, am I a bad person for ending this 3-year relationship because of his mother and dirty toilet? In this day and age, relationships come and go quickly with many casual connections on Tinder, and many people feel shocked as early as the second date. But I'm not like that. I am very loyal, have tried to maintain a long-term relationship, and went through a year of therapy to decode my own emotions when I felt disgusted by the person I once loved. If someone talks about your boyfriend's private parts in front of you at a family gathering, I think that would be the end of everything. Story 3. Being a single mom. Amid the storm. When love and betrayal made me lose everything. I'm a 26-year-old woman married for nearly 2 years and currently raising a 6-month-old baby girl. I work part-time to help with the family income and pay for my husband's immigration process. He's an immigrant waiting for permanent residency in the U.S. I always thought life would be okay, at least until everything began to fall apart. Before every morning, I woke up about an hour and a half earlier than him to prepare his lunch and everything he needed for work. Breakfast, coffee, clothes, everything ready so he could wake up, eat, and leave for work within 30 minutes. I did all this not because I was forced, but because I loved him and wanted to take care of him well. For the 3 years we lived together, I was proud to do this. However, lately he started asking for more food in his lunchbox. I thought maybe he was gaining weight or working out and needed more energy. I began saving some food that I planned to eat for him, but this often left me with nothing for lunch or waiting longer to prepare food, all while I was breastfeeding and needed enough nutrition. One day, when preparing his lunch, I found an unfamiliar fork in his lunchbox. He said it was from a coworker and that he brought it back from work. I found it suspicious. That was just one of the signs that made me anxious. Then I decided to visit his workplace during lunch to bring dessert and let him meet our daughter. When I arrived, I was shocked to see a female co-worker he had said was no longer working there, eating the leftover food I had prepared for him. I didn't make a scene, only quietly took pictures as evidence of what I suspected. Up until then, I had collected many proofs of his dishonesty and betrayal, from him secretly talking to other women to sending nude photos of a former co-worker who was fired because of her. Those things broke my heart and shattered my trust. I cried a lot, packed my things, and with our daughter went to my sister's house and her husband's, telling them everything and showing them the messages and photos. He kept calling and texting, asking how dinner was. Then one day came home earlier than usual and found my and our daughter's things gone, leaving only a note asking him to leave the house within 7 days. This was the house my mother gave me when I was 20. I also told him to contact my mother if he wanted to see the baby. I didn't want any contact with him at that moment. Ending things also meant canceling the immigration lawyer's contract and transferring the payment to a family law attorney to prepare divorce papers. He went crazy, threatening to do everything to prevent me from seeing our daughter or forcing me to choose between him and my family. He even went to my brother-in-law's house but was kicked out. By then he was drunk with some friends and was chased away by my brother-in-law with a shotgun. I felt exhausted, depressed, and severely stressed. I had to hire security at work to keep him away, and at times I didn't want a divorce because I feared he would find someone else and get immigration benefits from that. 3 weeks later, I was diagnosed with a severe urinary tract infection and luckily received timely treatment. The doctor said it might be a sexually transmitted disease, which made me even more suspicious of his betrayal. I had a painful talk with him demanding he admit the truth, but he only apologized, blaming work stress and life pressures, confessing he sought comfort with other women. He said he still loved me and our daughter, but I knew everything was broken. Since I left him, everything changed. He stopped eating the food I made, had to buy food outside, and struggled with loneliness in the empty house. He told me he missed our daughter so much he cried every time he came home. But my feelings were gone. I couldn't go back. Life with a baby, lonely, painful days, betrayal and lies from the person I once trusted. All these made me stronger and more resilient, even though the wounds remain. Story 4. Obsessed Mother-in-Law, when control becomes a terrifying nightmare. I'm a 25-year-old woman who had been in a relationship with my boyfriend Charles, also 25, for 3 years. From the beginning, I felt something was off about his mother, though I couldn't fully explain it at first. Charles's father passed away when he was young, so it's just him, his mother, and his little sister. We started with a long-distance relationship, and after my first visit, his mother began asking intrusive questions about our sex life, even inquiring about my private parts. I felt disgusted, but thought maybe they had a special mother-son bond, so I tried to ignore it. However, after my second visit, the creepy comments escalated. Once, while Charles was lying on the floor using a muscle massage device, his mother commented that he would look great doing that with me in bed. I was completely stunned and didn't know how to react. The situation peaked when I invited a new friend and her boyfriend to a Thanksgiving dinner at Charles's mother's house because I couldn't go home. Things got worse when his mother, in front of everyone, started talking about how she imagined her son's size and how impressive it was. I felt deeply offended and disgusted. What truly broke me was when, after a dry spell in our intimacy, his mother called me out saying Charles complained that I wasn't satisfying him sexually. They concluded it was because of medication I was taking that reduced my desire and urged me to stop the meds. I was shocked that my mother-in-law would prioritize her son's sex life over my health to such an extent. I decided to abruptly stop my medication, but it only made me sicker. I ended up undergoing psychological therapy for a year to understand why I hated and feared intimacy with Charles. For an entire year, we didn't even share a single kiss, and our relationship grew cold. The deeper reason I found Charles repulsive was his disgusting habit he never cleaned up after using the bathroom. Despite my repeated reminders, he would occasionally flush, but stains and mess remained in the toilet, filthy and disgusting, like a child's mischief. With only one bathroom in the house, his refusal to clean made me uncomfortable, irritated, and ultimately lose all attraction toward him. All of this, his mother's obsession with his sex life, his filthy habits, and our lack of intimacy, led me to decide to end things. I know he had planned to propose, which I didn't even know about, but I couldn't continue living in such suffocating conditions. I don't regret my decision. Though sometimes I felt guilty, living with someone like that would only have hurt me more. I deserve respect and to live in a healthy environment, not one where I'm constantly watched and controlled. Story 5. The custody battle and my husband's betrayal. I'm 26 years old, married for nearly 2 years, and have a 6-month-old daughter. I work part-time to help support the family financially and pay for the legal procedures so my husband, an immigrant, can get U.S. citizenship. At first, I did my best to build our small home. Every morning, I'd wake up about an hour and a half before him to prepare his meals, pack his lunch, make coffee, and lay out his clothes. Everything perfectly arranged so he could wake up, eat, change, and leave for work within 30 minutes. I did all that out of love and to make his life comfortable. However, recently I noticed strange changes in him. He started asking for more food, saying that his lunch wasn't enough. At first I thought maybe he was gaining weight or needed more energy, so I didn't worry much. One day, while packing his lunch, I found a second fork in his box that I didn't recognize. When I asked, he said he found it in the company kitchen and brought it home. I began to feel suspicious. Other small changes made me doubt myself, but eventually I realized something was wrong. One day I decided to visit his workplace during lunch to surprise him with dessert and let him meet our daughter. What I discovered shocked me. A colleague he had said quit long ago was still working there, and she was eating the leftovers of the food I had prepared for my husband while he ate the leftover portion. I didn't cause a scene. I quietly took photos as evidence. I had also collected evidence of his dishonesty and betrayal from hints that he was talking to other women to nude photos of a former colleague, which had even caused him to be fired. When I got home, I cried a lot. I packed my things and left with our daughter to stay with my sister and brother-in-law. I told them everything and showed them all the proof messages, pictures, and daily phone calls from him. My husband quickly found out we had left. He called and texted constantly asking about what I ate and how things were going. One day he came home earlier than usual and found all our belongings gone except a note saying he had 7 days to move out the house my mother gave me when I was 20. I also told him to contact my mother if he wanted to see our daughter while I was at work. I don't want any contact with him now. Ending things forced me to cancel the immigration lawyer's contract and switch the payment to a family lawyer to prepare for divorce. He went crazy, threatening to keep me from seeing our child and forcing me to choose between him and my family. He even came to my brother-in-law's house drunk with friends, but was kicked out when my brother-in-law took out a shotgun to protect the family. I felt hopeless, depressed, and mentally exhausted. I had to hire security at work to keep him away. Sometimes I hesitated about divorce, fearing he might find someone else and gain citizenship through that. 3 weeks later, I was diagnosed with a severe urinary tract infection, possibly sexually transmitted, confirming my suspicions about his betrayal during pregnancy and after childbirth. I confronted him directly. He admitted everything, apologized, but also gave terrible excuses. He said he only wanted to relieve stress and find excitement because life was boring with bills, kids, and my moods. He never thought about the serious consequences for me and our daughter. Though I felt some pity, I knew it was the end of this marriage. I must protect my health and mental well-being, and I can never trust him again. Story 6. Obsessed mother-in-law and the prison life I called hell. I am a 30-year-old woman newly married for just over a year. At first I thought married life would be sweet and peaceful, just like I had dreamed. But no. The reality was bitter to the core, when I stepped into my mother-in-law's house, the woman I once thought would be my solid support. My mother-in-law is very traditional, strict, and somewhat controlling. From the day I became her daughter-in-law, she treated me like an outsider, always finding faults and controlling everything in the family. At first, I tried to endure and win her over by taking care of my husband and managing the household, hoping things would improve. But things got much worse when she began to interfere deeply in my and my husband's private life. She wouldn't let me go out much, forbade me from making friends, and constantly monitored every word and action. Whenever I tried to talk to my husband about anything, she would stand right beside him, manipulating and twisting my words. The feeling of being controlled and isolated weighed heavily on me. My mother-in-law also had the habit of constantly calling to check on what I was doing, where I was, and who I was with. She never stopped judging and comparing me to other daughters-in-law in the village, making me feel ashamed and lonely. The worst part was when she scolded and yelled at me in front of others, destroying my dignity and self-respect. I once tried to leave, but thinking of my husband and family, I returned to that pain. Once she deliberately ruined a meal I cooked just to force me to admit fault and beg for forgiveness. I felt treated not as a daughter-in-law, but as a servant, a loser in a family war. I confided in my husband, hoping he would stand by me, but he was too influenced by his mother and afraid to confront her. Whenever I was upset or cried, he seemed helpless or blamed me for not keeping the peace. Gradually, I realized I was living in a real hell where love and trust completely disappeared. I decided I had to change and free myself from this control and oppression. I began learning about my rights, how to protect myself in marriage, and planning to become independent to live freely as I wish. I also sought help from friends, social organizations, and understanding people. My story is a painful journey, but also a great lesson about inner strength and the desire to live authentically. I want to share this so that anyone in a similar situation knows they are not alone and have the right to stand up and protect themselves. Thank you all for taking the time to listen to today's story. Life isn't always rosy, and sometimes those we love the most are the very source of our deepest wounds. If you are going through or have ever faced challenges in family or marriage relationships, remember you are not alone. Each of us deserves to live freely, happily, and with respect. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share the video to support me in continuing to share genuine and heartfelt stories like this. And if you have your own story to share, please leave a comment below or send me a message. Reddit Echoes is always here to listen. See you in the next videos with more new stories and real-life experiences you won't want to miss.